So now I've soldered it now. Not the neatest in the world, but it's going to work. Sorry if there we go, hold it back there and the camera zoom. So on this side there's two separate wires, both going to either side of the switch. If I turn it around on this side, there is the loop wire running from one negative to the other, and then this one here will attach to the negative on the bus wire. So I'm going to get a moving with that in a minute, but first of all I have to drill a hole in the baseboard to allow enough movement for this arm. So you probably don't really need to see this, but I'm going to show you anyway. That little tiny drill I pushed through, the reason I had to set it in the middle of those 2 points was because when I use my larger 10mm drill bit, if I line it up with the old single hole that I stuck through as the point and drill, I'll get right in the middle, and I'll be able to easily slide left and right. I won't have to make much adjustment. So that tiny hole is right there. So I'm going to get on, move on, and drill this hole. Actually, before I go, I'm going to say this is the part where you have to be really careful. If you drill all the way through, you will drill straight through the bottom of the point and destroy it, and you'll have to replace it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to carefully drill up, and then I'm going to get out. I'm lying underneath the board at the moment. I'm going to get out, have a look on the top. And then I'm going to slowly carry on going until I can see the drill just push the top of it, just touch the top of the point rod. When I get to that stage, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to change into a knife. I'm just going to cut the remainder of the wood out, because a sharp enough knife will just cut this wood nicely. So then, yeah, I've just done that now. I've attached one. I'm just going to show you what to do. I'm doing this bit handheld, so it might be a bit more shaky, but anyway. The point motor is now on. As you saw earlier, the soldering is all on. You can see the negatives on this side. But yeah, I've soldered it all. I've screwed it all to the baseboard now. A few things you need to know before you do that. The first thing is you've got to make sure that you've created enough clearance for the rod, for the point motor arm when you drilled your hole. I've checked all that. You then have to check that there's no resistance when you move it, and you do this manually just by moving one end of the arm left or right, and you then gently rotate this until you find the place. Sorry about that. Then you gently, there we go. Sorry about that. Then you gently rotate this until you find the place where there's less resistance. In my case, I just made 2 little holes where you can see one of the screws just there. 2 holes of the screws. I'll remove the whole thing, drew little pilot holes, and then put it all back on and screwed it up neat and tidily. And it's sat in there really well. The next thing I did was attach the negative, which is here, to the negative on the bus wire by using this. I'm not quite sure what it is, but it's from we use them on cars usually, but they work well enough to attach. It means no soldering, no nothing, just clip it straight on, that's it'll be fine. So that's made a good connection. There's a negative. Then moved on to do the positives. Instead of doing any more soldering, I decided to use the same things on here to allow the switch to control both of these, because these are all positives, so it doesn't really matter where it comes from. The only thing you have to check is when you flick this left or right, you have to make sure that, because I've joined 2 points onto the same one here, you have to make sure that when this one here goes, just say, to the top track, the one over there has also gone to the top track. So you just have to make sure that they're moving the correct way and stuff. But that's just because I've attached them both onto the same switch. So yeah, I'm going to put this camera back on tripod, and then I'll just show you it working. So I've now shown you how to how to make a point motor work, how to attach it, how to wire it all up. I also showed you how to mount it properly. That's very important, that bit, or else they won't work very well. Now the final stage is removing the metal rod. This should be the very last thing you've done once you're 100% sure this works. It's just to cut this piece of metal here down to be level with the track. I say be level with the track. Some people cut it down flush with the plastic, but I think that it's more likely to come out then, something could go wrong. So cut it flush with the surface of the rails, then run a few wagons and locos over it by hand just to check you can feel there's nothing touching anything before you start running locos over it. Now the only thing which I didn't mention is about checking it before you mount it to the board. Just attach the wires up loosely to the power bus line and just check it works, because once you sort of attach that, it's just a matter of undoing everything, but that just takes a bit of time. So yeah, I'm just going to show you now. As you can see, a point motor just flicking over. Now the one on the other end also works, doing the same way, which means when I flick one, the other one changes as well, and I'm able to drive a loco straight through. And the way I've done it, it also means that when I flick the point this way, this piece of track is live and this side is dead. Same on the other side, so it means I can actually hold a loco on the station without it moving anywhere, which is always very good. So yeah, so I'm quite happy in how this has worked out. I'm not amazing at soldering or anything like that. The one bit of advice I'd give to people is if you are thinking of adding point motors, first of all, design your layout to be completely flat on the baseboard. By that I mean, actually I'll move the camera to show you. This up here is actually running about an inch or so above, well no, about half an inch above the surface of the baseboard, which you can see here. So you can see my fingers on the baseboard and there's the surface. This is going to give me a little bit of a problem later on, because I'm going to actually have to drill a very big hole in the baseboard to allow me to move the point motor up closer to the top so that the arm of the point motor is long enough to get all the way through. So that's the first thing I'd say. Always try and put your track on the baseboard. Now I wasn't planning on adding point motors, but I watched a couple of videos from people and they look simple enough to add, and they really are. The second bit of advice I would say is before you start scenery, add the point motors then. Before you've stuck the track down, add the point motors then. The main reason for that is so, like me, you saw I had to very carefully drill a hole up from the underside and make sure I didn't damage the points in any way. If you can remove the points, you can just mark a hole and just drill straight down, no problems at all. So that's the second bit of advice. So the first one, try and keep your track on the baseboard. The second one, do your point motors before you've attached the points down. Two things which I didn't do, which I suppose just goes to prove that it doesn't matter which order you really do it in, you can still add point motors to a layout. Now there are surface mounted point motors as well as underneath mounted point motors. A surface mounted point motor would sit on this point here, would sit about there in between my two fingers, and all it would do is just flick the point, well, exactly the same as a point motor would, but it's on the surface. Now Hornby do quite a nice idea. They basically got a shed which you can fit over the top of it, but I didn't think that would really work. That would work on more of a modern sort of layout. You can be like a worker's shed or like a store shed, things like that. But on an older style steam layout like mine, that really wouldn't work. So point motors underneath I think is always better. It also gets them out of the way and wiring's a bit neater and stuff like that. So I just flick round to the point again. And so yeah, thanks for watching. If you have any questions or anything about point motors and stuff, if I know the answer, I'll help you. I've sort of learned quite a bit just from doing these 2 point motors. I will be adding point motors to other places on the layout. I'm going to start off by doing the main line before I move on to all the sidings and stuff. So I'm just going to do about 5 or 6 on the main line. I have got an update coming in 2-3 days, something like that. I've been doing quite a bit of work, so yeah, I'll show you all that as well. So that's something to well, happen in the future. But yeah, so yeah, thanks for watching. If you have any comments, as I said, leave them below. Always appreciate it. If you want to hit that like and subscribe button again, appreciate that as well. And thanks for watching.